Hello my crochet friends. Let's try something new today. So it's a Friday and I want to try something like a weekly wrap up. A lot of the booktubers that I watch will at the end of the week film a video and talk about all the books they read in the week, whether it's Monday through Friday or Saturday through Sunday. And I'm like, is it possible to do that for crocheting? And I think it might be, because I've worked on so many little things this week. So I'd like to try this video, see how well it works. Does it work for me? Will it work for you guys? And can I actually stick to a once a week upload schedule? I don't know. And some of this stuff, well, it's been in the last week. It was also the week before. Do you know, guys, sometimes I'm not very prepared to do these videos. So it turns out my battery was, you know, not doing what batteries are supposed to do. So anyway, so let's try a weekly wrap up, okay? I just ran up and down the steps like 3 times. I get my water bottle to get something I forgot and to get what's called a dummy battery for my camera. Okay, so I got in my steps for the day, right? Where do I want to start? My patchwork squares, because that's the one I've been working on the longest. I have made this color right here, which didn't have a label on it, but I'm pretty sure it's Mirage from Red Heart Super Saver. And this is the yarn tail on the last square that I made. So I am probably going to frog this one because this yarn tail is not big enough to sew it in. So it will come undone if I leave it like that. So I got 4 squares out of a random ball of Mirage. Well, 5 squares, but this one I'm probably going to have to frog. All right. What I've been doing is I've just been grabbing random balls of variegated yarn. And when I'm at my computer and I've got some time, I will crochet a square or 2 or 11. This is the color pink camo from Red Heart Super Saver. This is what I had left. I made 11 squares in the last 2 weeks. I do like the pink camo color. I was pleasantly surprised how much I like that color. Yeah, that's the label for the pink camo. I've got them all tucked into a little baggie like we do. I've got 12 of this blue color. This blue color does not have a label. I think it's Red Heart Super Saver, but I don't know for sure. So for this one, I think this is a color that my mom might have donated to me, because I have more of it and it's wrapped up like this. So this one looks like a full skein. Now there were smaller ones, and it was the smaller ones I had at my computer that I was working on. The big ones are too big. They roll around too much right now. I think I might need a yarn bowl. I finished up the skein of Panther Pink from Red Heart Super Saver. It's this bright pink with black. And let's see, I got 7 of the Panther Pink in the last 2 weeks. Okay. So I have been working on patchwork squares, so I can finish up my blanket, so I can show you guys how I crochet them and put them together. So this is Big Twist. The color is Happy Rainbow, and I got 10 of these made in the last 2 weeks. I love that color, Happy Rainbow. Yeah, makes me happy. So this is like a total of like 80, 90 squares that I did in the last 2 weeks, because I did count them up. I've got a second baggie here. Hold on. Not quite done yet. I've got Big Twist Sincerely in the color Cupcake Confetti, which looks like this when you work it up. This is what it looks like in the ball. So there's 5 of these. I did put little post-its on the stack with how many are in there. Now, the post-its won't stay long term, but it still helps me out when I'm trying to figure out how many I've made. Alright, this color. I'm pretty sure this is Red Heart Super Saver in the color Purple Tones. I don't have a yarn label for it. It was just a random ball of yarn. I've got 3 in the Purple Tones. I've got this blue color, which again, I've only got 3 out of here. I think this might be... It's not Red Heart Super Saver. It's a possibility it's Walmart Mainstays. That, again, it was just a little random ball that didn't have a label on it. And then this one is Red Heart. I do have this in a skein with a label, but it was just a random leftover from another project. It's called Icelandic, I want to say. And I only got 2 out of the little leftover ball of yarn that I had. And then I did the math. I actually had a patchwork square that I was getting right at the end, but I didn't have enough to do the last couple stitches, but I did measure what I had. I had frogged it and used a ruler or a tape measure, and each square is 11.5 yards. So I'm going to round that up and say you need 12 yards to do one patchwork square. That is, I made it with the hook size F, which is a 3.75. So for me, with an F, 3.75. Number 4 medium worsted weight yarn. I used roughly 12 yards. So I thought that was a good measurement to have, right? Okay, so let me put all this stuff back in the baggies that they were in, and I will be right back, okay? Okay, so for the next part of my crochet weekly update, I actually have more yarn that I had found at the thrift store. Check out this vintage variegated color. And please forgive all the stuff that's sticking to it between human hair and cat hair. It is a darker green, a lighter green, pink, and white. And there's 2 skeins of it. Now, one came with a label, one came without, because one of them, without the label, was in a baggie at the thrift store mixed with this gray. Okay, but this one had a label on it, but I took the label off so I could read it properly, right? Okay, so it is Karen. You know, Karen makes Simply Soft and makes the Karen cakes. And it's called Windtuck. Best known for comfort and softness. It is 100% Monsanto worsted weight acrylic. Machine washable and dryable, non-allergenic, moth proof. It's 3 ounces or 85 grams, and they called it 4-ply. And the color is called Rosy Sage Ombre. How vintage that label is. Right? Isn't that awesome? So this will work really well in my Patchwork Squares blanket. I would take a vacuum to it because it's got the vacuum hose with the attachment, because it's got a lot of fur and stuff stuck to the outside of it. They came out to be, I think, like $1 each. But this gray, I don't think this gray is worth saving. It's got some dirty stains on it, so more than likely I'm just going to throw this one away. I don't think it's worth my time and effort and energy to save it. Okay. Alright, I am working on a pattern for a Christmas tree skirt. I'm doing these, the pattern in panels that are a bit wedged shaped, and then they get crocheted together and they make a Christmas tree skirt. Now, this is 36 rows, sorry, 36 rows. I'm using an H, which is a 5mm hook, and number 4 medium worsted weight yarn. What I didn't know is how many stitches in each row. Like my first row down here, because I start at the smallest point, this is 14 double crochets, and I used 2 double crochets in the last stitch. So it's 15 double crochets, because that's how I do my increases, is on the last stitch. But then row number 2, row number 3, all the way up to 36. I don't know how many stitches are in there. So I've been sitting, and every time I make a row, I count it from the first chain 3, which acts as a double crochet, and each stitch across, and then the 2 in the end to create the increase. How many stitches per row? And I have a notebook, so I've been writing it down. I've been carrying a notebook with me. It goes with me almost everywhere now when I'm doing anything that is crochet related. Okay, so for my tree skirt panel, yeah, there's 15 stitches in the first row. There's 20 stitches in the 6th row, 32 stitches in the 18th row, and row number 36, there's 50 stitches. So I've been writing it all down so I can do the pattern for it, which is not yet, because I got to make sure my numbers are absolutely perfect. So the yarn I used was Big Twist Value in the color Camel. I love this because it's a very nice warm shade of brown. And I'm using a second shade because I'm going to alternate the panels for the tree skirt. So I worked on that this week. So I've got all the numbers for all the rows. How many stitches are in each row. I watch... Actually, I don't watch a lot of crocheters, believe it or not, on YouTube. I don't know why. I don't. I do watch some, but I don't watch a lot. And one of them had picked up a book at their local thrift store, and it's called Granny Crochet Favorites by Jean Linehauser and Rita Weiss. And I love the book because the YouTuber I was watching flipped through the book and showed all the vintage patterns in there. So I went to eBay, I found the book, and I bought it. Because how could I not? My channel name is Granny Square Peg. Granny Crochet Favorites. So, let's see, when was this one published? 1989. And the copy I found at eBay. Look how clean this is. There's no yellowing to the pages. There's no writing in the book. It almost looks like it hasn't been used. It's in perfect condition. So they have the patterns in the book, and they have black and white photos for them. But then in the middle, they have all the colored pictures. So you can see the color choices that they used. And then there's also little tips and tricks in here on how to make grannies. So let's go to the first Afghan. Granny's Rose Garden. So, like, there's the first Afghan that they have, and see how the picture's black and white. And then there's the pattern, right? But if you go to the center of the book, see if I can find Granny's Rose Garden. Aha, there we go. So here we go. So this is the first blanket, Granny's Rose Garden. They did it in black, gray, white, and a very bright pink. Okay, so in the middle of the book, they put in the color photos. I absolutely adore this, and I'm glad that I found it on eBay and picked it up, because I could get so totally lost in here on these pages. It's a wonderful book. Alright, so what else do I have? I have a small little yarn haul. I went to my local Michael's recently just to see what their shelves look like, and I didn't record anything. But someday I will go into Michael's and do some recording. So I just picked up their basic loops and threads, number 3 light, and just a white color. Since I've been working with a lot of number 3 light and DK weight yarn, that I can just use your basic standard white. And let's see, I paid full price for this. There was no sales that day. It's 4 ounces, 113 grams, 315 yards, 288 meters, and I paid $7.99 for it. And that's ouch. And then I found, this is absolutely gorgeous, and I hope my camera can show you how gorgeous this is. This is called Loops and Threads Soft Ombre, and it's a polyester blend. 75% polyester and 25% acrylic. But take a look at that color swirl between the purple, the yellow, the green, and a little hint of blue in there in that green. I absolutely adore this. This is so gorgeous. Now, my Michaels, their shelf, they only had 3 balls of this on the shelf, and I bought 2. I left one there. I showed some restraint. And so, yeah, I bought 2, and these colors are just gorgeous and phenomenal. And the texture of the yarn, being 75% polyester and 25% acrylic, is so soft. So soft. I love this. So I'm going to want to pick up more of this. But since my Michaels always has very low stock, I might go to Michaels.com and order some. Yeah, gorgeous. So a little mini yarn haul. I also like to go to my local Michaels for pens. I know this is weird, but they have these pens called Artist Loft, and they're gel pens. And I like them. They're really smooth when I write with them. And the gel dries very quickly, so it doesn't smear when I'm using it. So I actually just finished using up the black. The black is now empty. That's what I've been using in my notebook. So I switched over to the darker purple. And when this is all gone, I'll move to the pink. You know, I'm trying to use up all the pens in my house because, yeah, I got a weakness for pens and paper and notebooks and markers and stationery. It's one of my guilty pleasures. So shh, don't tell anybody. So that's why I go into Michaels. Alright, so yesterday's video, I showed you all my Lion Brand ice cream yarn, my original project. And I showed you that I had bought the watermelon color and had done a little bitty linen stitch. It's not very wide. It's only like 110 stitches wide. Okay. I really like the way it worked up, but the yarn's a bit scratchy. Last night I sat with some plain white. This is actually an older white that I have from Loops and Threads. When they were calling their DK weight yarn, they were calling it Snuggly Wuggly. Okay, so this has been sitting in my stash for a while. I'm just using it when I need white and a number 3 light DK weight. I used that and put 2 rounds of a single crochet around my linen stitch watermelon. Okay, and then I will grab the rest of the skein of the ice cream big scoop, and then I will go around and around and around until this is empty. Will I do the linen stitch going around in the border? I'm not sure if I want to do the linen stitch or just stick with a single crochet, maybe a half double. I'm not sure what stitch I'm going to use yet, but it is something that I've been working on. I started working on this one last night. I would like to get this one done soon-ish. Okay. All right, one last project that I've been working on for the last week or so. You guys know that I went to Hobby Lobby recently because I needed little small steel crochet hooks because I have this really thin yarn. It's called Wool Like. It's from Michaels. Okay, it is a number 1, super fine. Okay, see how thin that is? Really thin. So I needed a really small crochet hook, and my smallest is a C, and it was too big for this. So with the hook I found from Hobby Lobby, I went with the one with the ergonomic handle. It is a 1.5 millimeter, so it doesn't even have a letter, and it's working really well. I mean, you got to see how small the head is on this hook. It's so ridiculously small. So what I was doing is I made a sample square. It's a granny square. I did 7 rounds of the granny square in the creamy white, and then I did 1 round in this, it's mandala string from Lion Brand. And so this has been sitting on my desk. I've been working on this when and where I can, because working with such thin yarn, I actually do not crochet very fast. It's a very slow going process for me with the thinner yarn and whatnot. So here's the label for the wool like. It was Loops and Threads from Michaels. The color is called Ivory. It's 85% acrylic and 15% nylon. While it's a 3.5 ounce ball of yarn, it's got a lot of yardage. It's 678 yards. Okay, there's the old school label for it. The only place I can find this now is on eBay. And people are asking ridiculous amounts of money for it. But I have 4 skeins of the ivory white and 1 skein of like a slate blue. I am undecided on whether or not I'm going to leave it as working squares. You see how delicate this is and how soft it is? I'm not sure if I want to keep going. Like, I just finished up the second one today. And then, you know, crochet them together. I would use the white to crochet them together. I love the look of this very neutral tan beige, but it also goes into a gray color. I'm going to pull that skein out in a second. But I'm just undecided if I want to keep going with this project or not. So since I'm not sure, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit it off to the side with a set of notes. And I will come back to it in hopefully a couple months and figure out if it's something that I want to keep going with. So let's see. This is them sitting on top of each other, so maybe you can see them better. Alright, so this one, I bought this from, it is so unraveling itself. It is Lion Brand Mandala String. And it is 100% acrylic, but to me, the texture that they've got on there, it feels like mercerized cotton, even though it's acrylic. So 3.5 ounces, 350 yards. They give you a little sample on the label of what it would work up like. So there are tans, browns, beige, and then it goes into a gray. Can you guys see that? It is an awfully small label. So this color is called Ballad. And it's got very much coppery feel to it, a pewter feel, very much like metals. And I kind of like how warm these colors are, but also how soft they are. And I think they go really well with my ivory color. So I might stick with doing this project, but I'm just, again, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know where all this indecisiveness is coming from. Is that what happens when you get older? I don't know, but I don't like it. I'm used to being very decisive on what I want to do. So I did get have you guys tried the mandala string? Because it is a #1, super fine. I paid $7 for it at Hirschner's, plus tax and shipping. I like the feel of it. It's really nice. So these are my projects. These are my projects. I'm all over the place. But that's how it is for me, though. With my creative process, I can start one project and then start another and then start another. And then sometimes bounce back and forth between all of them to get them done. And then sometimes I can put them down and completely ignore them. I guess that's why I've got a massive project pile I've been working through, right? All right, so let me get all this situated nice and neat. I got everything. Got everything except for this. Cookies and Cream Lion Brand. I am going to be frogging this. I'm looking for the end. Right here. This little yarn tail. Thankfully, I hadn't sewn any of the yarn tails in. I just kind of tucked them in and started working over them, and it makes it so much easier to frog it. There we go. There we go. So that is my job for today. I'm going to sit and frog this. I do have my yarn winder out so I can wind it up into a cake. Okay, so that is my job for today. And then, since it's Friday, a lot of times I don't do any crochet stuff or related stuff on Saturdays. I usually spend Saturday hanging out with my husband. Whether we're doing household projects or other things, we usually spend Saturday together. And then on Sunday, I decide what I plan on working on for the week. So hopefully this can be a video thing going forward. Weekly wrap up with the crocheting. Let me know down in the comments below. Are you guys like I am, where you working multiple projects at a time, or do you stay focused on one project from beginning to middle to end? You guys let me know down in the comments. And it's not, I don't feel like I'm being chaotic with it. It's just that sometimes I need a different kind of project to work on. You know, sometimes I need the ones that, like the squares, that work up nice and quick and can be done with the instant gratification. And then other times I need ones where I can just do rows back and forth. So it depends on the day, depends on my mood. It depends on what's happening in my life, on which project that I'm going to be working on. So today is just, after all of this, it's just kind of maintenance admin day, you know, where I just kind of do the prep work to get things together, you know, like write out some notes for these, for this one here. I'm going to write some notes, put the notes with it, and keep all that stuff together so I can decide if I'm going to frog it or keep going. I would just keep making squares in the ivory, and then doing one round of the mandala string, and then connect them all later to have a very delicate, soft blanket afterwards. Yeah, I might. Because sitting here, like when I touch this, this just makes me want to go make more. But it takes me a little bit of time because it does slow me down. Smaller hook, thinner yarn does slow me down. So I think that wouldn't be an everyday project. That would just be when I feel like I'm calm enough to work on it, so I can take my time to work on it. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to go take the patchwork squares, stick them in my new yarn room with the other patchwork squares. I'm going to take the tree skirt panel, put that in there with the other tree skirt panels that I've made. I'm going to take the watermelon downstairs with me so I can work on this today. I'm going to take the cookies and cream downstairs with me so I can frog it. Because like right now I'm upstairs in my bedroom. It feels like it's 80 degrees up here today. Even with the fan on, it's a bit warm. And yeah, I think that is it for today. I'm going to take the yarn that I bought and stick it in on the shelf and get everything put away nice and neat. Yeah, okay. All right, so you guys know how much I love you and appreciate every single one of you, and I hope life is treating you well. I want you to keep being your own awesome selves, and I will catch you sometime next week, okay? Bye. I so totally forgot to show you guys the bin that I'm working from that has all the variegated yarn in it. Now, this isn't all my yarn that's variegated, but this is what's sitting in my room currently because it doesn't fit on my new shelf. So when I feel the urge to work on patchwork squares, I just grab a ball of yarn or a partial skein and I make squares out of it. So, do you guys remember weeks ago I asked you how many squares you got out of a skein of yarn, because I had a viewer ask me and I didn't know? Well, I've been working on it myself too in the background. So let's see. I used Mainstays from Walmart. It's actually, I had found it at the thrift store for $1.99. So, it's 285 yards, 260 meters, 5 ounces, or 141 grams. So, if you're in the U.S. and you do it by ounces and yards, it's 5 ounces, 285 yards, okay? And it was the pink color that they have. Well, I used a size F hook, which is what, a 3.75, and I got 25 squares out of one skein of yarn. Okay, for those who have questions about that. And also, I had a question saying, how many skeins of variegated yarn did you use? The answer is all of them, a lot of them, everything I own, and number-wise, I have no idea. I did not count all my skeins of variegated yarn. I don't know. I just buy pretty colors, throw them in my stash, and when I feel like working on patchwork squares, I grab a color that I'm in the mood for. So I don't know how many skeins of variegated yarn that I have. I typically don't know how many patchwork squares I can get out of one skein because I'm so color driven that I only work 2, 3, 4 squares of one color and then I'll move on to the next color. So I typically don't know how many squares you can get out of a skein. So the mainstays, it only coming in at 5 ounces. Red Heart Super Saver, I think that's 5 ounces. I think 5 ounces is a common number for variegated yarns. They're typically not 6 or 7 or 8 ounces. They're typically not big skeins of yarn. So I'm finding most of them are 5 ounces or 3.5 or 4.5. So it'll be different for every crocheter. And then you have to take into account tension. Okay, my patchwork squares, because I'm using a size F hook, which is a 3.75, my squares come out short and dense and tightly packed because that's what I want. I want my patchwork squares to be extremely dense so it makes for a very heavy, warm blanket. One of my biggest frustrations growing up was using crocheted blankets that were made with such big hooks and such big stitches. It lets in a lot of airflow, so they weren't actually very warm. They were always too chilly for me, so I like to make my blankets on the warm side. So yeah, I've been, when I need to, I just grab yarn out of this bin, and I actually have some in my new yarn room. I have a yarn room now. Those videos will be coming out soon. I just grab yarn and work on it. So I'm still working on my Patchwork Squares blanket. I did have to take a couple months off. I did burn myself out on it. I know some of you are waiting to see how I put mine together. It's coming. You just have to be patient with me because sometimes you just lose your motivation or you lose your vision for it, or you get so many other ideas in your head you start working on them. It can be a process for me. So out of 5 ounces, I got, what did I say was that? 25 squares. 25 squares, which the 25th square, it came up with a yarn tail like this. So I would actually say 24.5 squares, because that 25th one, I don't think that'll count because that yarn tail is not enough for me to sew in. Okay. All right. So let me go get all this stuff put away. Nice and neat, because I'm learning how to be organized with my crocheting. I may not be able to organize my thoughts all the time, but I am working on organizing the yarn and the crocheting. So, yeah, all right. I'll catch you guys later. Bye. One more thing, guys. I picked the color Rainbow Bright from Big Twist Value out of my bin of variegated yarns. So this is the next color I'm going to be working on to make more patchwork squares. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Those are all the crochet updates I could possibly think of. All right, I'll catch you guys later.